Welcome to Tammy's Soul Speak, featuring animal intuitive and medium Tammy Hendricks, offering insight, spirituality, transformation, and clarity to every soul. Now, here's Tammy.
Hello, happy Wednesday, happy middle of the weekday. Wherever you are, it's either good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Glad to see you're coming in and joining us for this wonderful, as always, wonderful gathering of friends. It's like we're all, whether we're new to the show or we've been here before. There's a specific energy of this lovely, like-minded group of animal lovers, and I'm always so grateful that you show up and uh, honored actually that the animals are, guiding you here and um, pulling us all together, right? It's all about what they're helping us learn in life. And I love to see Jennifer, hello, and WB, hello, and Kat, good to see you. Mary Jo, good to see you. Um, and hi again, everyone. It's starting now. Okay, WB, right. Hi, Greg. I was just thinking of you this morning. I'm glad to see you on the show and thinking of Lucy and Sam. Claire, yes, good evening. I was thinking of you when I said that. And Deidre, hi, it's good to see you. Cindy, hello to all. I'm so glad you're here too, Cindy. And Barb, winter is still here in Canada, freezing rain on the way. Well, aren't parts of the country, definitely getting ready to be hit with weather once again? So it's this crazy pattern we're in. We're here, oddly enough, for a couple of days, we're above normal warm wise. So, we just have to, I guess, learn to be whatever moment we're in and just, face things as they happen. And so I love that we're gathering with this topic about, walking our pets home, because really it's one of those pieces that, because I've experienced so many animals and I've had help along the way of guidance, that it's something we always, don't know what to do when we get in a situation. And so I love that we're going to have this conversation here today and see what the animals want to share with us, because they've certainly been giving me downloads. And I'm wondering with you all if they have been doing the same. This gathering, this show has become very, very to say it's live is an understatement. Its energy is very alive and very, very present. So, you know, the love and loss of an animal is, to me, one of the most profound experiences we can ever have. Sometimes, and maybe you would agree, even more profound than the loss of a human. Why is this? I've had many, many people tell me that losing their animal, losing their pet, has significantly affected their life, more so than losing a member of their family. You know, I think for me, when I'm thinking about it, our animal companions offer us what humans don't, right? They offer us unconditional love. Um, and I've always felt we drop our defenses with them, and our heart walls drop, uh, and we open up. They're there with us through the darkest times to the greatest celebrations. They're with us all the way through in the journey that they share with us. So when they pass, the profound hole that's created uh, in our heart and our soul is one that is sometimes very difficult to get through. And so there's this sacred trust. I always called it a sacred trust I had in animals. Ever since I was a child, it was just natural to me. And so, it can't be duplicated, right? It's like the soulmate connection that we've always longed for, that once in a lifetime experience that takes our breath away when it's gone, right? I think that's one of the hardest parts. Um, Helen, as you're coming in, you all are still joining. Good to see you. And uh, Roni, oh my God, our heart walls drop with our pets. Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, don't they really? And we don't even realize we go through maybe with heart walls, but as we get, uh, let's say, experiences in life that hit us and hurt us, as we might say, it's almost like an unconscious piece where that goes up, and we're a little tentative. Don't want to love again, or don't want to get hurt again. So it's a real thing. A heart wall is. Um, and Deidre said, I think for me, it's because I spend so much more time with my animals than I do with any humans. I'm with them all the time. Yes. And isn't it a natural feel, Deidre, to be with them like that? It's like they go through your day and it's just part of who you are, right? The animals are part of us, and they do it in such a graceful way that for them to go and not be in our lives, it's a gaping hole. It's like a blank page on a in a book. And Cindy says the loss of our pets affects us on a daily basis. Yes, absolutely. And honestly, I think that's a tribute to how much we love them and how much we have loved. Uh, we and I would ask any of you, would you have had it any other way? Would you have traded whatever you had or whatever you have with your animal for not having it? Would you trade having no memories as opposed to having memories? We take memories for granted, right? And sometimes those memories are painful, but what if we couldn't even have the memory of them? What if they were just completely wiped clean and we couldn't access any? For me, I think that would be more heart sickening than any of the experiences I've had with them, good, bad. Deidre says, no way, I wouldn't want to change a thing. Yeah. And yes, no. Barbara says, nope, never, none of them. I agree. And Kat says, no how, no way. I wouldn't trade those memories for anything. I know it's kind of like one of those dual truths, like those poignant truths. Um, Memories versus no memories. Yeah, it's a thing. It occurred to me the other day, Ronnie, about that, because we take memories for granted. Think about it. We are. We can always pull and say, well, this is what happened. We could tell our stories. What if we didn't have any stories left to tell? We wouldn't have access. So, our stories, our memories connect us on an ongoing basis. And it's a matter of, well, what do those memories serve for? And so we can look further into that. And there's a book I love and I've shared other times, and it's called, I've got it right here, The Five Invitations by Frank Oseski. And I love it because it's about five invitations for us to, the wisdom of that death teaches us in living our lives. But his quote is, life and death are a package deal. You can't pull them apart. And I think that's so true, even though we tend to segregate, and our society actually tends to deny death. Even now, even as we open up and we talk more, and we have grief groups or whatever, it's definitely a segment of our particular culture. I think that we were like, oh, that'll happen later, maybe not now. Martine says, real connection to precious soul pet is eternal to me. Was biggest pet loss ever. Yes. Troy, unexpected heart pet, age 4. He had, yes, had an incurable brain aneurysm, and yet he's one of my strongest guides. Loved him even much as life. That's really beautifully said, Martine. And I feel like Troy's passing has helped you not only grow, but has helped us as you share him with everybody, uh, just like you share your feathers. So I think part of Troy's legacy is, if we call it that, is just that. It's passing on that love continues, that the growth continues, and the connection 100% continues. Stephanie says, my dog is my best friend. No greater friend than you'll ever find. Is loyalty that is so pure, and the happiness they give us goes deep in our soul. You know what? I love the way you worded that, because I think we all long for soul connection. We may get up and do our daily thing and go to the grocery store, but underneath everything, we long for soul connection. We long to connect rather than surface, and the animals allow us to do just that, and they do it so seamlessly. We don't even know we're being worked with, right? It's so beautiful. And so, while there are avenues for grief over losing human companions, there are often not so many places for us to go to grieve the loss of our pets. How do we process that when we feel so alone? And several of you wrote in, and people who don't resonate with animals often can't understand the profound connection we've had. Uh, they will say things like, "Oh, just go get another one." Um, I pulled this from my webpage. Pamela had written in, "It's disturbing to hear people say, 'Oh, it's only a bird. It's only a dog.' They were my children, not just animals." Oh, I tear up reading that because they don't usually with humans say, "Oh, go get another grandmother. It's fine. Go get another aunt. Oh, go get another mom or dad." So oftentimes the people who don't resonate, they don't have an understanding, and we tend to judge what we don't understand. That's just human nature. So, we limp off feeling isolated and alone, and we often suffer through the many stages that accompany the loss, especially if our companion has passed in a way that makes us question and doubt how we handled things. Um, we're left with so many questions. And I know I have experienced this in the myriad of passings that I've been actually the privilege to be part of in the lives of the animals. Ones that, I've had questions that have tortured me for days, weeks, months. And so, and sometimes it goes even years where we're questioning, why did that happen? I could have done this. So I've spoken to so many clients that tell me that they see the last days, the moments before death over and over again, and they replay every vivid detail. And they ask questions like, for instance, do they forgive me? Should I have been with my pet when they passed? Did I do the right thing? Did I make the decision too soon? I've had that happen to me. Was I being selfish by deciding not to euthanize? So I don't know if any of you have had thoughts like that. If you have, I'd love for you to share them. These are by no means the all of them, right? What our minds come up with can be actually quite cruel because it leaves us in a hopeless place of not being able to move forward from second guessing everything. Um, Heather says our animals teach us so much. Sometimes we don't realize it until we have lost them. I have learned so much through them. It's a connection. Yes, I agree. Loss is often the greatest teacher, right? It's called soul growth. And, it may be for soul growth, but, maybe for any of you that have experienced loving an animal, losing an animal, being with an animal at any time, it's definitely when they're out of our lives, just like with humans, maybe we don't realize what the precious, I call extraordinary sacred moments are. Like every moment is extraordinary. Um, and Sherry says, I'm still having those thoughts with two pets who passed, and I'm struggling with the one who has not crossed over. Oh, Sherry, I understand, and I feel what you're going through. And I'm thinking for all of us, there may not be a point at which we just completely don't question. We may get more comfortable over time and understanding that the animal actually had a role in it to play for us, that we were learning, and it's that soul growth. And so the thing I love about what your statement is, Sherry, is you're very conscious and aware of steps, and the struggling is something that it reflects your integrity, it reflects your connection, it reflects of how much you want to be um, doing the right thing. And often when we get like the right thing in our minds, you know, sometimes it doesn't happen that way, and then we suffer. Those questions make us suffer. Um, Marianne said it was not until my Lily passed and I wondered if she was okay and understand why I did what I had to. The cardiologist had told me that if Lily could speak, oh, she would say, "Thanks, I had a great time." Made me feel so much better. That cardiologist was totally tuned into the animals, and they do say that. They're like, "Thank you so much. What a ride. What a great time this was." And they don't look back with regret. We humans, that's a whole another situation where we do look back, and after they pass, especially, they a lot of times will help us, try to help us through that grief process. And it could be in the form of a sign, or a dream, or maybe we handle something different because of what we've gone through. It's a myriad of ways in which we grow. Susie says people who have never experienced the unconditional love from an animal are missing out on a fully open heart. Isn't that the truth? I would totally agree. There's something so magical about the grace and ease with which animals ah, crack our hearts open. And we'll talk about that later a little bit. But grief's a complicated subject, and it's a complicated emotion. Grief is often overlayered by other losses and unprocessed emotions we've experienced, both human and animal. The grief, I know for me, in experiencing some really difficult moments with humans and animals, I could think I'm grieving over this, only it's everything else that is still in the hopper that comes up at the same time. And so it comes up to haunt our every move, and it sucks the very air out of our lungs. So it's not an easy one, but it's one of the most profound emotions, the most profoundly complicated emotions that we will ever go through, that actually can reap the greatest growth for spiritual expansion. And not that we were going to go, anything but kicking and screaming into grief. Nobody's going to say, "Oh, yeah, let's open the door to grief on that one. I am so ready. Bring it on." I doubt any of us on this show or anybody would feel that way, right? It's when it visits us, even unannounced, that unexpected visiting that we weren't ready for. If we can move through it eventually, and however long the process takes, we're changed from then on. Greg says, Lucy always loved going to the vet. That last time, she refused to go through the front door. I wonder why I did not ask her if she wanted to go home instead. Well, that's an interesting question. We do what we can in the moment we know. So, in other words, we always take the next best step. We may not have all the information at the time, but I think any of us would agree that we try to do the best we can with what we have. And really, that's all we can do. It's when any other information might come in that we are like, oh, you know, if I had done that, it would have changed things. But it wasn't present at the time. So you didn't, or we didn't, or the animal didn't. And so this getting all wrangled up in the hows, why, shoulda, shouldn't haves, that's actually the mind. It's not the heart. The heart, if you drop into it, is just connected and loving and innocent. There's an innocence there. Marge said she saw Isla 2 mornings ago, just as I was waking up. Oh, I love that. She was wagging her tail. I felt her love. And Marge, isn't that great when they drop in unannounced, when we're not demanding it, we're not expecting? It's like, I've always said, look, it's not spirit on demand, right? we can't just dial up a spirit like that. They come when the need is greatest. They share information when they have the greatest need to share, to help us along and assist us along our soul path. And so my mentor and friend, and I've mentioned her before, Sharon, has this, I've always loved this, and she would always tell me, Tammy, the experience of grief is a great gift. And Renee, if you would put that image up, because I feel like when she said that to me, this is what I saw. For the heart that breaks is just opening again. You think about, let that set in a little bit. The experience of grief is a great gift, though, We're not going to necessarily say that. For the heart that breaks is just opening again. And I know so many of you have experienced that, and so many of you, and Greg has made a wonderful image that is similar to this for his Lucy. Um, that is the heart expanding, ever expanding over and over until there's no end to it. And I've always loved this communication from Shoji, Sharon's dear cat. If you would put that up, Renee, who passed. Um, After Shoji's passed and she was grieving, he communicated this over a series of days and other things. This is my sweet Sharon. She's from Mount Shasta. A miracle of how I found her. That's a whole another story. Um, don't hold love back. Don't put conditions on it. Love now. Give all your love away in each moment. Don't be a love miser. Be a love fountain and keep the door of your heart wide open. No heart walls. No heart walls allowed. The animals are always encouraging us. And so, one of the most transformative times in our life that we can have is that aging and passing process, right? Facing that fear, um, facing the fear of loss, period. That particular facing holds the greatest potential and power for our own spiritual growth and transformation, which is what it's all about. Um, it's actually one of the gifts they give us as they assist us in this most important journey that we're all one day going to have to face. And if we look at how they face passings, it's a lot different than humans. And I'm continually amazed at the grace that they embody in that journey. Patricia says, I miss my Cami so much. She left suddenly with a stroke at the age of 6. She looked longingly into my eyes. She knew she had to leave. I hope from the bottom of my heart we will meet again over the Rainbow Bridge. I pray it's true. The fact, Patricia, that you're even sharing this with us, she's here now. She's not gone. And we think of bridges, and I've said this and I'll keep saying it, that bridge is a two-way street. It's from form to spirit and spirit back to form. So they're coming back in, they're leaving, they're high-fiving each other as they go by. And so it's a lifelong connection. And I mean an eternal. And we hear that word and we're like, sure. No, it truly is. And the very fact that you're here with us today, the very fact that you are sharing this about her loving look in your eyes, is you are actually channeling her energy. And so it's in these times we think we're just talking. I was like, no, the animal is channeling through you. That's how easy and simple it is. And we think it's gone. So, you know, how do we prepare for the impending loss of our animal companion in a way that's supportive to our friend, but also supportive of our journey alongside them? How do we do that? How do we do that when we're knee deep in on the front line, having to make choices or anticipating it ahead of time? How do we, what are the tools we can use, right? Um, and I want to, let's see, Audrey says it's so hard when you're in the height of your grief, isn't it? I agree. The pain and tears are ever present. Miss my girl so much. Oh, I know. And I think to honor ourselves and to honor the grief that's there when it comes up, just stop for a minute. Pause and just be with it. It's not there to torment you, even though it can feel like that. And it can feel like we'll never be able to take a deep breath again. But I think it's important to realize, just like if we noticed we were happy, oh, I'm so happy right now. I think it's important to just call it, name it. Sonia Choquette always says, when you claim it, you name it. So, or when you name it, you claim it. That's the reverse. So we name our grief, and then it's a facing of it. It's like, yeah, you're here in the room with me. I'm okay with that. Not, I kind of wish you'd go, but I see you're here. So if you're here, I'm going to see what you're needing, and it allows it to pass through it a little easier in the moment. That's not going to say another wave isn't going to hit you. It probably will, but it also doesn't chase grief off into another room and you get there and you don't come out again, because I don't know about you, but when we store grief, it always comes back to visit us at some point. And the reason for that is it actually is trying to transmute and transform. And, I will say that when we experience so much grief, sometimes we can only get to a certain point in our grief and we can't work on it anymore. And so storing it actually is a coping mechanism. And I know I've certainly done that. And I've shared that, when I've had human losses, I ended up grieving all my family. Like it was like the whole gang I was grieving for. And so I would have never dreamed that. But at the time my parents passed, I went as far as I could in my grieving process. And so that's also part of it too. So don't be surprised if it doesn't pop up, down the road or unannounced. But if you stop to acknowledge it and not shame yourself because of it, you watch the transformation will really uh, open you and change in a way that I predict will help others, because what you go through, you'll be able to help others go through, and you'll be given opportunities. That's how it works. We all hold hands. We got the bucket. We pass it to the next person. The animals are right there along with us. Helen says, having had so many love dogs in my life, I find that the hardest thing for me is to put them down. Well, it's definitely not easy, for anybody, I would think. I usually let them tell me with their eyes and when they stop eating. I know when it's time, but I feel awful having to make that decision. It's very difficult for me. I'm not God, but I'm taking a life. Helen, what you're saying echoes what we have felt. And so you are so articulate in that we do feel like we're playing God. But I want to reassure you, Helen, and all of you, that if we tune into our animals, which you are already doing, or you wouldn't gather here, if we tune into our animals, then they actually do show us, and they're part of the process. They are part of that soul path that they have. And so we're not doing it alone. It may seem like we are, but we're not. And so if you realize that this is a joint venture, then there's not one person or anything taking the decisions away. We always have choice, and on some level we are part of that. And it may not be a conscious level, but we are part of that. And Deidre said, it's a selfishness in me that doesn't want to let them go. I don't want to be without them. I don't like the thought of empty space where the wags used to be. I agree. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't call that selfish, actually. I think that's honoring our experience with them and not just saying, think about it. You wouldn't say, oh, I'm so ready for you to go. Can't wait till you get out of here and I can get another one. No. No, I love that that's part of the process, is feeling what you're feeling and honoring however that shows up. So thank you for sharing that. And Janet says, right before you announced the topic for the show, I woke up thinking about the events that happened to Grace the day I had to let her go. I sobbed like a baby, and she will be gone almost 3 years. Oh, yes. You know, we revisit those points at times when, if they pop up for us, I'm always, for myself anyway, kind of like, well, that's interesting. Why is this popping up now? I wonder what Grace wants me to know. I wonder what Katie wants me to think about. What's going on in my life at the time? It may seem like we have random, like, just, how it goes, random pop-up thoughts, and we do, but it's like, where did that come from? So I always like to approach that with a little bit of curiosity, of, even if it's a painful memory, I like to be able to just honor it for being there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Um, Jennifer says, what if the grief is actually our babies coming to us? Would that change how we react to it? So let me read that again, see if I understand. What if the grief is actually our babies coming to us? Um, Jennifer, do you mean like, I'm trying to would that change how we react to it? If you thought that it was your baby coming to you to help, or that they are grieving too? Maybe you can, if you'll elaborate just a little bit. I'd like to make sure I'm understanding so I can share whatever intuition is telling me about this. So yeah, if you'd add to that, that'd be great. So I want to share a story that Kat shared, like Kat and I experienced. I don't know, about a year ago. Renee, if you, it's called the Benjamin Bunny story. So Renee, if you would put up Benjamin Bunny. So Kat had an experience with this little bunny, and she and her dog Angel were outside, and they were. Just outside looking around, and Angel got very agitated and was trying to show her something. So she goes over and she sees this little nest of baby rabbits, and apparently the cats had gotten to two of them who were passed, and there was this tiny little bunny that was injured and was quivering and was so small that she picked the bunny up. And Angel was so adamant that she see the bunny and get to it, that she put the little bunny in a blanket to try to warm him. And as she shared with me, she's like, in the morning it was still alive, and I was so surprised. Uh, but I didn't know what to do. I picked up the phone because I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I get this bunny back to life? Uh, what do I do? What's bunny protocol? And so when she reached out, we talked about it and looked at the situation, and I asked her, what are you feeling in this moment? Like, what are you observing in this little bunny? What actually is the current moment looking like? And so, she shared that, it's shivering or it's very, very cold. And so, I gave her some practical ideas to help the little bunny, all the while, I guess, helping her. And I was feeling the bunny that it wasn't necessarily in an effort to save as much as it was an effort to be present and compassionate, which Cat is in spades. And so this little bunny um, got wrapped in warm towels and got put into a nest, which then later Cat would call the warming nest, which I think that is so beautiful. Um, and she said while she tended to this little bunny, that Angel laid by there the whole time watching. And, she warmed him. She was able to get him to take some warm fluid. And she said he laid there with his eyes closed for forever. His little paws were moving. You know how like little cats, that cats do the muffin thing? It was moving its little paws like it was on its mother. Um, and she said while she was sitting with it, and she and I mm, talked about and shared is just be with the bunny. You'll be guided. Be with a bunny. We can do practical steps, but it's even more important to be present so that we can have inspiration come to us, because that's how it comes when we're present. And so shortly after she was just with him quietly, his eyes opened and he looked directly at her. And she said she spoke to him and let him know that she was there and would do anything he needed her to do. And she said, what I didn't know at the time is that it was, she named him Benjamin Bunny, which I think is absolutely so sweet. Um, it was his way of thanking for taking the time to just be with her and care and love him, or be with him. And he passed quietly shortly after. And so she said, when I look back at the experience, it was all I needed to be was the compassionate witness, bearing witness to another being, another soul, not being able to stop it, couldn't fix it, right? But just being there in that sacred moment to ensure that that being was not alone. And, actually, on that note, we're never alone. Even if you're not there when your animal passes, even if an animal passes, which I had Annie pass in her favorite spot, and I found her there. Their guides come. They're surrounded by their pals, and nobody is ever alone, ever, ever. So Kat says she carries the gift of that experience in her heart. And so as we approach this delicate subject of how do I navigate this, um, I felt like that story was so poignant because there wasn't actually anything she could do to stop the process. Did the practical things, you know, walked the journey with the bunny, which, it's growth for us all. Jennifer says, the moment the griefs hit us in the face, are we misinterpreting it? What if it's actually them visiting us at that exact moment and our hearts feel it so tremendously that it elicits all the emotions? Yes, absolutely. Yes, because I've had that happen where Murphy visited me and all I did was sob in a heap on the floor holding his throw. And I look back at that later and I'm like, well, that's all I could do. It just to find his this throw with his gorgeous picture on it, I was just like, ah, and it just overcame me. And I just the vacuum cleaner left running. I was in a heap on the floor, clutching it. Um, but I look back and it was actually he was visiting me. So it doesn't mean that it's wrong either way. They'll still visit, even if we're grieving, and even if we misinterpret it, it's okay. They've made the contact, even if it elicits, and all the better, to elicit emotions. Let's not be afraid of them. Let's let them do their job with us. And the animals are pros at helping with that. So there's so many practical ways that we can assist our animal companions who are in the transition process. Here are the few I use with my own animals. Today, I have several that are quite wobbly. Um, I do all of these and then some. So, in all parts of what I'm getting ready to share with you, here's one thing I tell you: use your intuition, use your GPS system that is your intuition and your connection with your animal to guide you. And so, Renee, if you would put up what I've pulled out is the practical tools for caregivers. So, I always start wherever I am by relaxing, dropping my shoulders, because that tells my body, okay, Tammy, heads up, we're going to relax. Um, and breathe several deep breaths because we don't breathe. We're shallow breathers. So, step number one, definitely that always. And this is going to help you regardless of where you are in life. Um, bring your whole heart to the moment. I know that that may be difficult, but if we practice it in the good times, it's a lot easier when it's the stressful times. Use soft blankets for comfort and warmth. Those blankets can become precious heirlooms later and feel what colors are needed. Colors make a difference. And actually, um, you'll find it'll be interesting to see what you gravitate toward. Play soft, soothing music. Sing lullabies or favorite songs from childhood or songs you have sung to your animals. Read sweet children's books to them. As if you're reading to a child, the energy's actually the same. Once about animal adventures are great. Tell them your favorite memories about your time with them. And use flower essences, which are great tools for transition and life changes for both humans and animals. And you can use this if you look on greenhopefarmessences.com, amazing company that is a wonderful resource for flower essences. And more things you can do, Renee, if you would put up the next slide, is spend quiet time with them. That's good for you too. Share special photos with them, your favorites, and thank them for the many gifts they've given you. Name them out loud. Tell them what legacy they'll leave that will live on after they've passed. Put your hand on their body to feel their breathing and heartbeat. And notice your own. Your breathing and heartbeat will become one. It's a very sacred experience when that happens. And the last thing I would mention, be a compassionate witness. It allows life to enter the dying process in a poignantly beautiful way. And so what you may say to me is, well, Tammy, I wasn't there with them and I couldn't do all those things. And now it's too late. It's never too late. Ever. They hear you after they've passed. It's still as important then as it could have been when you were with them. You can't mess this up. And what you'll find is every one of these steps, you'll feel that connection. You'll feel the connection. And that will be your validation that it's actually live, that Tammy just wasn't telling me this. It's real. And so, you know, all these tools and then some, if you've used any, will help you really in any part of life. Think about that for a moment. Don't we all need to relax, drop our shoulders, take a pause, breathe? Jennifer says, I sing to all my animals, and when my, let me see, loved ones would be in their transition, I would sing to them and hold them. And I'm feeling rocking too when I just read that. It helped me as much as it helped them. Doesn't it? There's something about um, holding and touch that is a wordless communication that is so healing and so powerful. Um, so, as I've shared, a big part of my life's journey has been learning about life, death, and loss with humans and animals. And I've accompanied many, many, many to the Rainbow Bridge in a myriad of different ways, myriad of different scenarios, some that I was there for, some that I wasn't, some that were tragic suddenly, and some that were, I was able to take every step. And I really have a respect for the way life and death operate. And it's not all about what my part in it was, right? We tend to make it that way, but the practice I'm about to share with you is one the animals have taught me, and they have really impressed on me to pass it on right now in the show for you all to take it and use. It's a gift from them to all of us, really. And they say it's needed now more than ever. And so if you love people or animals, you're going to experience loss. Isn't that something we all share? The beauty of this practice I'm about to give you is it can be done at any stage of life. If you begin practicing this now, it will be easily accessible when you need it the most. And so the animals say, and they've told me, and Renee, if you'd put up that slide, because they were like, put that up, Tammy. Don't wait until the time comes. The time is now, always. And they specifically spelled always that way. Um, So just take that in, and if you'll, join me in addition to our tools, let's take a look at what we can actually, it's a living practice. And so, Renee, if you would put up the graphic and um, share with them. So, the animals have helped me with this, entitled this Heart. Easy for us to remember, right? So, H would stand for here, E is embrace, A is accept, R is reflect, and T is touch. So it's heart for healing. That's what this is. So I'm going to ask Renee if you'll, as I say what each is, if you'll put up a slide. I wanted to share this with you so we can kind of all go through this together. And so if you would put up the slide that says here. So what is here? You're like, Tammy, I know what here is. It's a listening from the heart that opens all the doors to communication. So when we open our hearts, we're actually able to hear what's being communicated, not just like literally auditorily, but coming from your intuition, coming from those psychic channels that you're all opening up on. And we can hear, but do we really listen? Do we listen to what our animals need? Cat had to actually slow down with that bunny because there was panic. How do I help him? It's going to pass. She actually had to slow down to just be with the bunny. And it can almost seems like, well, we're supposed to do something. That is the doing. The being is the doing. So often we think our animals can't hear us, but the truth is they're always aware what we're saying and feeling, even if they're sleeping or seemingly unconscious. Listening from our hearts opens all the doors to communication. The heart is always listening. So, two, or part of the word, would be embrace. And these are going to be easier for you to remember. Opening to every moment, no matter what it looks like, allows us to fully embrace life as it happens. Now, I know what you're saying. How are we supposed to do that? You got to be kidding me. I don't like the moment. But opening ourselves allows us to open to what Frank Oseski would say, welcome everything, push away nothing. Bring your whole self to the experience. And I don't know about you, but I have to remind myself several times a day, possibly, of this, because when our animals are aging, going through the transition process, this can be one of the most challenging aspects, but also one of the most informative and the most transformative. I'm also always reminded when I think of embracing of Byron Katie's quote about arguing with reality and how we only, we suffer 100% of the time when we do. We're the ones that suffer when we argue. So, while embracing it can sometimes take great courage, it yields immediate benefits, immediate in the moment benefits. Um, WB says, always feels like we never have enough time together with our babies. I know, I agree. I totally agree. But we have to, I've accepted that I can't control what goes forward or how they, but I can really embrace where I am with them and totally honor that piece. So I love that you're noticing this. And so as we go through the rest of the acronym, maybe you'll resonate and say, "Oh, well, I can do that one. I don't think I can do the other one she mentioned." So if we look at the A in heart, it's accept. Again, you got to be kidding me, Tammy, right? I got to come to a place within myself to accept the situation for what it is without trying to change it. Yeah, but it allows for a spiritual connection with our animal companions. It really actually it's a facing what is without judgment, fully taking in of all the aspects of the situation, including whatever emotions are present. So it's easy to distract ourselves when we're in this space of the passing or the impending passing, to distract ourselves. How many of us have done that, right? Distract ourselves running around searching for cures and answers. um, we're the healers, the fixers, we're the problem solvers, but often we miss the very process itself by placing our ideas about what it should be in the place of simply being with the animal and perhaps seeing from their perspective. It can be the do something can be a slippery slope, right? It has for me. I know Kat says it was for her. That do something. Yes, I got to do something to stop what's happening, until she relaxed into the moment of realizing, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be in this place of acceptance and honoring. And so if we can practice this peace in us, it takes this fighting our way through things uh, out of our lives. And as far as doing something, I just wanted to make a note about vets and things like that. Of course, right? Do what you need to do vet wise. We all do that. We take the necessary steps. Sometimes that means reaching for vet help, but right action, if I call it that, it comes from a space of acceptance. If we accept the animal as he or she is, we get open to guidance. We actually get shown what steps to take. Practical steps, I'm all about those. In the moment, it can deepen our spiritual connection with the animal and the process itself. Um, Jeff said, that's what Daisy taught me at the end. Just to be there. I had to fight to slow down and quit trying to fix it. Ultimately, we do have to get to there, right? We have to stop being the fixers, and we have to accept it. It's right in front of us. Not easy, but this heart practice, this healing, heart healing I'm sharing, is something that we can take parts of it out and do it right now in our lives with anything we are exposed to, right? Anything we have like restriction, or we have constriction around that we don't like. And so the last part, or not the last, one of the last, is reflect. Reflecting or pausing in the middle of chaos is one of the greatest gifts we can offer our animal companion. Finding a calm space in the middle of the storm. Again, is something we have to consciously remember to do, to pause. But in that pausing, we actually can see the being that's right in front of us. And a lot of time we can't reflect until after we see things. We call that hindsight. But it's a rich ground for us to process our loss. And again, another one of the 5 invitations from Frank is find a place of rest in the middle of things. It's that calm in the middle of the storm, uh, allowing ourselves to breathe in the midst of chaos. It's huge. You know, it may only be there for a second, but the effects of it reverberate out. So even if the reflections are painful, and realize that they're actually serving a purpose as you awaken to what the animals see in you. You're the diamond light of your own soul. And so the last one is touch. We were mentioning this earlier in the show. Touching our loved one conveys love without words, healing without intervention. We all know how to do that, and animals they love being touched, whether it's a hug or a soft hand, a touch on the shoulder of someone who's in pain, cuddling next to an animal as they sleep, feeling their heartbeat alongside ours allows us the opportunity within the moment to instantly heal and transform. Sharon shared a wonderful book with me called The Magic of Touch by Annie and Victor Reinhardt, and it's all about the healing effects of animal touch and animal presence. And so, you know, what we're talking about here is like that physical touch, but I think you would agree, is I've shared with you and you've shared with me on this show and many times in sessions, you get touched by events, right? You get changed, you get moved. And one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes is, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So for the animals, you will always remember the touch in your life from that sweet spirit. Always. So it's one of the easiest ways, I think, if we're trying to remember everything, like what did Tammy say to do in a moment? What did she say again? Um, we all got the touch thing going. So, if you think you've got the heart, and if you break it down and you just embody one aspect of it, just know that you're healing. You're healing. You're healing the situation. You're soothing things. Um, and the beauty of this heart practice is it can be used at any stage of life, whether you were able to be with them or it happened when you weren't there, whether it was a peaceful passing or a tragic ending. This heart practice can be used at any stage of life and actually is a gift from the animals as they assist us in our own spiritual expansion. And it's not about getting something right or getting something wrong with the animals. It's about practicing this journey of opening up to life, opening up to the wisdom that they have to share with us. And so WB says, always, yes, I remember the way each of them touched me, every single baby. I love that. I can also, just in hearing your words, that puts me back to my own feelings and my own memories of my head on an animal or touching an animal or feeling their heartbeat. The touch aspect is huge. Um, Ronnie says, "Could you please write that book on touch and the author's name in the chat?" Yes, I don't have it on the slide, but let me say it again, Renee, if you could grab it. It's called The Magic of Touch by Annie and Victor Reinhardt. It's a sweet little book about animals and how they communicate through touch with us, with each other. Um, it's a very sweet book that's so healing just to read it. Um, so yes, all of you are saying, Kara says they show love and compassion. Marge said, love the way my pups would nudge with their noses. Do you see how it's all coming back? It automatically activates that memory. It's a heart memory. It's a heart memory. You've got heart memories. And even if, there've been some painful ones, they're profound in their purpose in your life. Always that. So I wanted to share some photos and questions with you that have come through that, oh my goodness, they are soul and heart touching. And so as I read these and share these with you, please join me in feeling into it yourself. So this is Jan. This is my almost 14-year-old dog, Ramses. He has bad hips and weak hind legs. For the past year, he has been unable to get up from lying down without me lifting him. I get up at night to turn him over to the other side. He's on several medications that we have mostly optimized. When he's up, he wanders around outside, surveying his domain. He can't walk very far, but enjoys being out. He also enjoys eating and treats. At some point, I need to figure out if discomfort outweighs his quality of life. Thank you for all you do. I love this question because I'm sure, Jan, we have all had this feeling about, I've got to figure it out. You actually don't need to figure anything out. That's your mind saying that. There's no figuring out. The heart is the connection. And what I'm feeling from him is this deep gratefulness about not being hurried out. I get a sense he's taking in every single morsel of life and really enjoying it. And so, you know, I've watched many. I had a little beagle once named Sammy, and sh the vet would have said, "Tammy, what are you doing?" And I just didn't feel she was ready. And I was so glad I waited because she would, some days were bad, and then another day I'd find her at the top of the hill looking out over all the land. And then she told me when it was time. And so it's a delicate balance. And interesting that we're talking about him working, that I share that with you. Delicate balance. You've got this, and he will show you. But I feel deep, deep gratitude from him in this deep heart connection and communication in his life with you. Thank you for sharing that. It helps us all. And this is Pat. She said, Jackson's been with me since he was 10 months old. He's now 18 years. Together, we've lost two beloved dogs, parted for 8 months when a flood evacuated us from our home, but he was there for me during recovery from multiple surgeries. He now has seizures on the average once a month, and I realize that one of those times he won't pull through. My question, I would love to know if he is aware of the spiritual presence of two beloved dogs past, Cammy and Abby. You know, Thank you for sharing this because when I tuned in to Jackson, he's like he knows everything. He's like, I've got the handle on everything. He is extremely aware of this life and the next, which are actually very close together. The veil is very thin, he says. And he's busy communicating, he says, with you, with the others. I don't get a sense of distress from him at all. Like, almost like he's got this, he he knows what he's doing, and he appreciates guiding you, he says. So yeah, he's got this wisdom about him. And trust him, he says. You need trust him and trust yourself. And he is very aware, and he's also aware of you and your thoughts about things. So you can very easily communicate with him, Pat, very easily, as he's come on this show to communicate with all of us, right? So hopefully that helps. And just be with him, as I know you are, for whatever seizures, whatever his physical body is going through. Just know that he's on this journey too. It's in part with him, right? It's not anything happening to him. And this is Susan, who says, this is Shadow. My multi-poo will be 17 in April. Is he getting ready to say goodbye? I am wondering if he still wants to be here. Oh, I've got from Shadow, I get the sweetest, softest little spirit. Spunky though. Like, he got some spunk in him, that he's so enjoyed things. And he definitely is. Again, I get, just like, earlier, savoring every single second. And you may feel that his life energy gets a little quiet. He's like, don't worry, mom, got this. And he wants to be with you. So you will also, as hopefully the show will help you, with some of these journeys and these steps you are going to take. But he's really proud. I'm getting the real strong feeling of proud of the life he has lived and continues to live with you. So he was like, don't be alarmed. If I'm sleeping, I'm just working on an energy level. It's like this inner work he's doing. He's like, I've got this. um, so thank you for sharing that. And I hope it helps you. And so this is Katie. I'm sorry, Scarlett, my lab, just lifted up my chair. So it's like, don't lift me. It's not an eject chair. Um, so this is Judy. She says, my bond with Katie was unbelievable. She's been gone for a year after surgery to remove a tumor. It was been awful for me because I wasn't with her when she passed. She was waking up from surgery and all the signs were looking good for me to take her home when the doctor came in from the waiting room to tell me that she had passed, and I thought he was saying she was going to be ready. She had put her head down and just passed. I pray constantly that she will visit me in a dream. Oh my, what a what a journey with her. Um, and sharing her with us is that she's very, very much part of your life and is quite relieved actually to be out of the body and with you. And she says she's visited you. She says you don't believe it when she shows up. So I'm wondering what she means by that. So I would just be curious and wide open. And I'd also share with her, you know, oh my gosh, I'd love for you to come in a dream. That would be such a wow. It would be such an honor. And just be open to any sign because I get the strong sense if she made her way to the show, trust me, that's a sign in itself. Well, I appreciate everything and all you do when you come to the show and you share your precious babies with me. And so, if the shows have helped, then the animals are so proud of that. And they're loving what we're all doing together going forward. So, I'd love to see you next time. I want to say it's March 8th will be the next show. Let me hear from you. Always happy to hear from you and hear what you're learning, hear what you're discovering, and most of all, hear what your animals are sharing with you. So let's always keep our conversation with us and the animals going. And I will see you next time. Bye.
You've been enjoying Tammy's Soul Speak featuring animal intuitive and medium Tammy Hendricks.